Alan is a 30-year-old hardcore gamer who hasn't seen sunlight in weeks, and honestly, who could blame him? He just finished a no-hit run of Sekiro and Dark Souls at the same time. With GTA 6 still nowhere in sight, he goes online looking for something new to play and stumbles upon a mysterious game that never ends. A game installing itself without permission should be terrifying, but Alan is already hooked. He cranks the difficulty straight to hell mode, picks an untested summoner class for extra chaos, and blindly accepts the terms and conditions. Big mistake. One tiny clause later, Alan wakes up reborn as a baby in another world. A whole year passes, and baby life isn't so bad. No job, no bills, and two loving parents named Roden and Thria. Still, since he chose hell mode, Alan is pretty sure tragedy is just waiting around the corner. One night, Alan starts waving his baby arms around, shouting random gamer phrases, desperately trying to open a status screen. Just when he's about to give up, a mysterious book finally appears, scaring him so badly that he screams and alerts his parents. After they leave, he checks the book again and finally sees his stats. As expected, his summoning skills are absolute trash, but they can level up with use, so that's promising. He learns he can only summon H-rank insects and beasts, which sounds painfully weak. Then he receives a message from a mysterious voice apologizing for the delay. Apparently, the summoner class was still under development. Alan doesn't care about the apology, but unfinished systems mean bugs, and bugs mean exploits. He's excited. After some trial and error, Alan figures out how summoning works. He has to create skill cards first. The next morning, he finally summons a giant grasshopper. It looks amazing, until it flies straight into his face. Turns out, summoned creatures still have animal-level intelligence, so giving commands is pointless. The upside? The summon boosts his stats. The downside? His mom walks in and squishes it instantly. Not discouraged, Alan experiments more. He summons a mouse next, which also launches itself at his face. This one gives buffs too, and has a skill called Scurry, which it actually obeys, but the ability is completely useless. Still, Alan discovers something huge. He can stack up to 10 summon cards, and all buffs stack. 10 mouse cards mean extra attack and HP, making him stronger than any normal baby. He's still weak by game standards, but now Alan knows one thing for sure. Once he levels up his summoning skills, this world is going to be very unbalanced. Normally, leveling up wouldn't be a big deal, but Alan chose hell mode because he thought suffering would be fun. Now he finds out that gaining levels needs 100 times more experience than normal, which means he's stuck grinding like his life depends on it. One day, his father Roden comes back from hunting, completely covered in blood. Don't worry, it's not his. He explains that he and the village men just took down a great boar, and Alan is instantly curious. Roden asks if he wants to see it, and Alan excitedly agrees. Roden lifts him onto his shoulders and carries him out, giving Alan his first real look at the outside world. The walk takes longer than expected, though, and Alan ends up falling asleep along the way. When they finally arrive, Roden wakes him up and Alan is stunned. The boar is huge, way bigger than he imagined. He can't even understand how Roden managed to kill it. Soon, the villagers notice Roden's return and start cheering for him like he's today's MVP. Alan asks if the great boar is really that strong, and a woman named Gerda explains that it's a C-rank monster that usually takes at least 20 men to defeat. That information is gold for Alan. It gives him a clear idea of how big the power gap between ranks really is. Still, before he can dream of summoning anything like that, Alan has one painful task ahead of him: more grinding. After 10 months of non-stop effort, Alan finally reaches level 2 as a summoner. The rewards are solid, his stats increase across the board, and he can now summon G-rank creatures and even fuse them. There's just one problem: fusion eats up a ton of mana. Alan quickly finishes his dinner to recover MP and rushes back to his room to try it out. No luck. His grimoire tells him his maximum MP is still too low. In other words, back to grinding. By the time Alan turns 3 years old, he finally has enough MP to use his level 2 skill. With the fusion system unlocked, he creates his very first fused summon, a G-rank bird. Proud of his creation, Alan gives it a name: Chappie. Chappie's main ability is voice mimicry. It can perfectly copy any sound or voice, making it amazing for confusing or distracting enemies. Alan also summons a frog and a mole. The frog's only talent is hopping around while flashing like a living disco light, which is useful as a distraction, I guess. The mole, on the other hand, is actually impressive. It can dig a huge hole in just a few seconds. Compared to H-rank summons, these G-rank skills are a massive upgrade, and Alan finally starts enjoying this game like world. Still, he knows he's far from strong enough to fight real monsters. That's when Gerda's daughter, Karina, shows up, looking to play with Alan. Unfortunately, her idea of playing is dueling. Alan uses every buff he has just to survive, but Karina is way too strong. By the end of the day, Alan limps home, thoroughly defeated. Back home, Alan learns some big news. His mother is pregnant again. Since Therja can't do heavy work anymore, Alan offers to help with the harvest. Thanks to all his buffs, he basically has the strength and stamina of an adult. Still, his parents refuse. They tell him to stick to small chores and enjoy being a kid. Roden reminds him that he'll have plenty of time to work when he grows up, so he should enjoy his childhood while he can. Alan is annoyed at first, but then remembers how brutal farm work actually is and decides they're probably right. During dinner, Therja mentions seeing Alan throwing rocks at a tree earlier and asks what that was about. Alan claims he was training for self-defense in case monsters attack. In reality, he was testing whether repeating actions could unlock new skills, but it didn't work. Roden is impressed by Alan's dedication and says he's looking forward to his appraisal ceremony. Alan asks what that is, and Roden explains that when kids turn 5, they're evaluated to see what talents they have. If Alan gets a strong talent, he could become rich and successful someday. When winter arrives, Alan summons a grasshopper in the snow just to see how long it can survive. It lasts a full day, which makes him proud until Karina shows up again and challenges him to another fight. As expected, Alan loses badly. In the chaos, he forgets about the grasshopper, which crawls onto Therja's leg and scares her so badly that she falls over. And falling while pregnant is very bad. Roden rushes to her side. She says she's fine, but she isn't. The fall sends her straight into labor. Like it or not, the baby is coming today. Roden tells Karina to fetch her mother, who helps Therja through the delivery. By morning, the family welcomes a healthy baby boy. Everyone is happy, but Alan feels conflicted. He still doesn't fully understand why a game reincarnated him into this world. Still, when he thinks about his old life in Japan, he realizes he didn't have much to lose. So instead of questioning it, Alan makes a decision. He'll focus on getting stronger and protecting his new family, because they matter more than anything. And that's how episode 1 comes to an end. By spring, Alan's appraisal ceremony is finally getting close, so he asks his dad what it's all about. His dad explains that every child has to be appraised when they turn 5, and if someone gets an amazing skill, they might even make it big. But this year is especially competitive since many kids are turning 5, including Karina. The whole village heads to the commoner city for the appraisal. As they near the church, Alan notices something awkward. Everyone else is well dressed, while he's basically wearing rags. Then it hits him he's been wearing rags his entire life. His family must be really poor in this world. Still, he doesn't let it bother him. When the priests arrive, some people start mocking the poorer villagers. The priests shut that down immediately, reminding everyone that blessings are given equally. Even a poor farmer can receive an incredible skill. With that, everyone is told to enter the church. Inside, Alan notices 3 statues. One of them is Elmia, the same voice who once sent him an apology letter for delaying his class. Yeah, awkward. The appraisals begin. First up is Palomas, the village chief's son. He places his hand on the crystal ball, and his stats appear on the wall. He gets the merchant class, which makes his father very happy. Alan finds the whole process underwhelming. It's basically his grimoire system, just with letter ranks instead of numbers. As more kids go up, some get strong talents, while others get nothing at all. Eventually, only Krina and Alan are left. Krina goes first. She excitedly places her hand on the crystal, and suddenly, it explodes with blinding light. Her father panics, thinking something went wrong, but the priests are just stunned. Krina has been blessed with the Sword Lord class, one of the strongest classes in existence. Her dad is overjoyed, though Krina herself doesn't fully get the hype. Alan, on the other hand, isn't surprised at all. She's been beating him up for years. Then it's Alan's turn. He touches the crystal. Nothing happens at first. Then flash, he gets knocked backward. His dad rushes to check on him and asks the priest what talent Alan received, since he can't read. The answer hits hard. Alan is completely talentless. This makes zero sense to Alan. He knows he has a class, but when he looks at the results, all his stats are E rank across the board. He immediately blames Elmia for doing a terrible job coding the summoner class. Seeing Alan upset, his dad hugs him and comforts him. They head home, and despite everything, his family treats him exactly the same. Alan appreciates that, but he knows the truth. He can still use his grimoire just fine. He figures it out. He's playing on Hell mode. Since he needs 100 times more XP to level up, his stats are stuck at E rank, even though he's actually strong. For most people, this would be devastating. But Alan isn't a casual gamer, he lives for painful grinding. Still, he does notice a strange error code in his appraisal and plans to send a lot of complaints to the devs. The next day, Alan's family visits Krina's house to celebrate her Sword Lord appraisal. But something feels off. Alan's dad is acting strangely. During the visit, tensions rise, and it's revealed that Alan's dad suggested cutting ties between the families. His reasoning: Krina now has a guaranteed future. She could become nobility, and being associated with a poor family might hold her back. Krina's dad is furious and says he doesn't care about status. The argument gets heated until their wives step in. Later, Alan learns that all 4 adults were childhood friends who built the village together years ago. Remembering that makes them realize how pointless the fight was. Soon after, news spreads that the Knight's Order has taken interest in Krina and is coming to see her. While this is exciting, her parents worry she's still just 5. Things get worse when another talented kid insults Alan for being talentless. Alan doesn't care, but Krina absolutely does. She nearly cuts off the kid's finger before being stopped. Then the Knight's Order finally arrives. The Knight Captain meets Krina and suggests taking her for training immediately. Her father refuses, saying she's too young. The captain scoffs age doesn't matter for a sword lord. And just to be sure they're not lying, the captain orders his vice captain to duel Krina, a 5-year-old. Without hesitation, the vice captain agrees. Gerda begs the Knight Captain to reconsider. He doesn't want his daughter's life put at risk, but the captain shuts him down immediately. If Krina refuses to fight, it will be taken as proof that she lied about her class, and in that case, she and her entire family will be executed. Yeah, no pressure. The knights hand Krina a real sword. Most kids would be crying by now, but Krina, the moment she realizes she gets to use an actual weapon, she happily accepts the duel. She's battle-hungry, not scared. Everyone takes their positions as Lebron faces off against Krina. The duel begins, and Krina charges straight at him. And yes, your eyes are working, she's swinging a sword twice her height like it weighs nothing. She even manages to push Lebron back a bit, though he's still handling her without much trouble. The Knight Captain looks unimpressed. Krina blocks one of Lebron's attacks and prepares to strike back, but instead, Lebron kicks her across the street and into a wall. Gerda loses it. He tries to rush in, but the knights slam him to the ground. Roden and Alan are also restrained when they attempt to interfere. Alan thinks this whole thing is ridiculous. Sword Lord or not, an adult will always have more combat experience than a 5-year-old. But then Krina stands up. A terrifying aura surrounds her. Without saying a word, she launches another all-out attack, completely focused. This time, she overwhelms Lebron so badly that she slices his sword in half and nearly takes his head off. The fight ends instantly. Krina looks disappointed that it's already over, but she had fun. She politely thanks Lebron for playing with her and walks away, leaving him to process the fact that he just lost to a 5-year-old. Gerda rushes to Krina, relieved she's okay, and praises her. But the Knight Captain approaches again, making Jira defensive. He doesn't want the man anywhere near his daughter. This time, the captain admits the truth. Krina is absolutely a sword lord. He apologizes for forcing her into such a brutal duel and asks to discuss her future. Gerda refuses at first, but the captain offers to meet with their friends present. Feeling safer, Gerda agrees. They gather at the chief's house for lunch. The captain Zenoff explains himself. 3 years ago, a noble family claimed to have a sword saint, which raised suspicion. Sword saints can only be born to low-status families. That sword saint was later exposed as a fraud, along with several nobles who exaggerated their talents. Since then, the kingdom enforces a zero-tolerance policy on fake appraisals. Zenoff admits Krina's trial was too harsh. He assures Gerda they won't take her away. She can train at home, and when she turns 12, she may attend the academy and become a knight if she wants. 2 years later, Alan finally unlocks level 3 of his grimoire, and he's thrilled. The level up gives him the enhanced skill, letting him strengthen his summons. On top of that, he can now hold 30 cards at once, meaning the buffs he can stack are about to get ridiculous. He plans to test everything later, but for now, dinner calls. As for Alan's family, his little brother is turning 2, and his mom is pregnant again, this time with a baby girl. His parents start discussing names, but right then, Alan receives a message from Elmia. Without thinking, he blurts out her name. Unfortunately, his parents misunderstand and think he's suggesting naming the baby after a god, which is a massive taboo. Alan can't explain himself, so he quickly changes the topic by pointing out that Gerda's scars have mysteriously vanished. Gerda explains that he passed a trial of the gods earlier that day while fighting a boar. Alan has never heard of that, so Jira explains that sometimes after battle, warriors feel refreshed and fully healed. Alan assumes it's just a side effect of leveling up. Since Gerda is a strong fighter, he probably levels up often. Alan, on the other hand, has a level 3 grimoire, but his body is still level 1 because he hasn't fought any monsters yet. If Alan wants to grow stronger, he'll have to fight, but that's easier said than done. He isn't allowed to leave the village without permission, except during hunting expeditions. When Alan casually suggests joining the next hunt, his father shuts it down immediately. He doesn't want his son anywhere near danger. That night, after everyone falls asleep, Alan reads a message from Elmia in his grimoire explaining that a system bug made him appear talentless during appraisal. It's now fixed. His true class, Summoner, will show next time. His stats showed E rank only because he's on Hell mode, so a new stats section reveals the truth. He actually has multiple A and S rank stats, comparable to Krina. Excited, Alan tests the enhanced skill on a grasshopper summon, boosting its stats, but when he materializes it, his mom barges in and instantly kills it. The next day, while Gerda goes hunting, Alan experiments more and finally succeeds at fusion, gaining a new grass card that boosts MP. Summoning it produces a strange apple creature with no combat ability, but an aroma skill. It plants itself and releases a pleasant scent, which his mom mistakes for a normal plant. Training later with Krina, Alan still loses but realizes he's tougher, and his sword mastery reaches level 3. Frustrated after failing to unlock new skills and babysitting Mash, he feels discouraged until Mash notices new saplings around the house, caused by Alan spamming apple summons. The MP boost improves his mana recovery from 6 to 5 hours, giving him over 15% more daily MP. That evening, tension rises when Gerda doesn't return. Hunters soon arrive in panic, carrying Rodin, who was gored by a boar. The wound was cauterized, but he's barely alive. The only reason he survived the trip back was because they used an expensive healing herb. Verja is shocked they shouldn't have been able to afford it. Gerda explains that the Knight Captain had apologized earlier and gave them gold coins, which they used to buy the herb. Still, it wasn't enough to save Rodin completely. The hunters start shouting, blaming commoners for the incident. The noise wakes Mash, who begins crying. Alan takes him to bed while the hunters leave to give the family some peace. Later, Alan asks what really happened. Gerda explains that a few days ago, the village chief ordered them to allow commoners to join the next hunt. Boar meat is valuable, most of it goes to the Baron, and the rest is shared among the hunters. Since commoners rarely get meat, joining a hunt was tempting. But there's a reason no commoner has ever volunteered before. Hunting boars is extremely dangerous. Every year, hunts end with injuries and sometimes deaths, so commoners usually stay far away. But Roden had recently earned a reputation as a legendary hunter, which made people careless. Many commoners thought that as long as Roden was there, he'd handle the boar while they collected the rewards afterward. Because of this, they asked the village chief to let them join the hunts. Roden and Jira strongly disagreed, but an order from the chief couldn't be refused, so the commoners were allowed in and everything went exactly as badly as expected. During training, the commoners barely tried. When the real hunt began and they faced a boar, they panicked, dropped their weapons, and ran, breaking the formation. One of them tripped, and Roden rushed in to save him, only to be gored in the stomach. The hunters eventually killed the boar. Jira promises to bring Roden's share of the meat, but Alan feels guilty. He realizes he's been treating this world like a game, when for everyone else, its real life and survival is on the line. If he has power, he should use it to help. By morning, Roden wakes up, though he's still badly injured and likely won't be able to hunt before winter. Gerda offers to share his supplies, and Alan steps forward, declaring he'll take Roden's place. Seeing how serious he is, no one objects. Alan immediately starts helping, carrying heavy water with ease and harvesting potatoes one-handed, shocking Gerda. That's when he learns most of the harvest goes to the Baron, which feels unfair. The village chief later arrives to apologize, admitting partial fault and bringing the frightened commoner responsible. Roden forgives him, warning him to be more careful. Later, Alan tries to hunt on his own. He summons frogs to lure prey, but instead attracts a monster bird. He considers running, but chooses to fight for his family's sake. He lands the first hit and summons dogs to attack, but the bird overwhelms them. With his summons gone and buffs fading, Alan is left in serious danger. If he doesn't act fast, he's about to become bird food. Luckily, he gets one last chance and summons 2 leeches that latch onto the bird's neck. He's never tested them in real combat before, but to his relief, they drain the creature's energy, weakening it just enough to turn the tide. Once he breaks free, Alan summons even more leeches and wolves. Working together, they finally manage to bring the monster down. Alan can barely believe it, this is his very first kill. His grimoire confirms the bird is dead, and he even earns 100 XP as a reward. Later that day, Alan returns home carrying the massive bird, leaving his family completely stunned. They can't believe he actually managed to kill something like that. Alan brushes it off, saying he caught it while it was distracted, which is technically true, though he conveniently leaves out the part about his summons. Gerda starts examining the corpse, confused about how Alan could defeat it with only a wooden sword and some rocks. When he notices bite marks, he asks about them. Alan quickly claims he was fighting on instinct and did whatever he had to. Gerda imagines Alan biting the bird in desperation, but either way, he admits it's an impressive feat and congratulates him. Gerda even helps Alan prepare the meat since it's his first time. The bird originally weighs around 60 kilos, but after being bled, it drops to about 20. Only half of that is edible, though the wings sell for a good price, and there's also a magic stone. Still, most of it has to be handed over as tax. Alan complains about the unfair 60% food tax, and Gerda agrees, but normally, there's nothing they can do about it. This time is different. Because of Alan's unique situation, they decide to negotiate with the chief. At the chief's office, Gerda suggests that Alan should only give up the wings and keep the rest. The chief hesitates, saying the Baron demanded extra food this year. Gerda reminds him that Alan only went hunting because of the chief's unreasonable demands, which led to Rod getting injured. To really sell it, Alan pretends he's about to pass out from hunger. The chief feels guilty but still hesitates until Gerda offers the magic stone as part of the deal. That finally seals it. Not stopping there, Alan asks if he can keep most of the meat from any future birds he catches. The chief agrees, assuming there's no way a kid could pull that off again anytime soon. He's very wrong. Soon after, Alan manages to lure in 2 birds at once. By now, he's perfected his strategy. Leeches to drain them, rocks to stun them, wolves to attack, and a final smack with his sword to finish the job. He's been hunting every 3 days, and this is the first time he wins without losing a single summon. Even better, he finally levels up. Reaching level 2 gives him a 60% stat boost, not as high as he hoped, but still huge. It took him 6 years to level up once, and now that he finally has, he decides it's time to tell his family the truth. He explains that he's not talentless and that he received a divine oracle as a baby, making him stronger and smarter, but at the cost of having to work much harder than everyone else. His parents believe him, though they're worried it sounds more like a curse. Alan admits they're not wrong. He explains that his talent was too new to be detected, which is why he was labeled talentless. While relieved, his parents wish he'd told them sooner. Alan chooses not to reveal that he's a summoner yet, unsure how people would react. With winter arriving, Alan starts trading the bird meat he saved, with Gerda guiding him. As long as no careless commoners get involved, hunts usually go smoothly, which makes Alan wonder what really separates people like him and Gerda from ordinary villagers. Gerda explains that commoners sit a step above serfs on the social ladder, and their taxes reflect that. Serfs have to hand over a painful 60% of all the food they produce, while commoners only pay a head tax, 1 gold coin per person each year. Naturally, Alan asks the big question, can a serf become a commoner? Gerda says yes, but it'll cost 10 gold coins per person. Alan does the math in his head. With another baby on the way, he'd need a total of 50 gold coins to upgrade his entire family. That's a huge amount of money, but he's determined to make it happen, no matter how long it takes. He spends the rest of the day following Gerda around, learning how the barter system works. By the second day, he understands it well enough to trade on his own. 5 pieces of jerky can buy a bag of salt, and that same bag is worth 5 silver coins. That means 1 piece of meat equals 1 silver coin. Since 1 gold coin is worth 100 silver, Alan realizes he'll need the equivalent of 500 pieces of Alderaran meat to save up enough. It sounds insane, but in his mind, it's totally doable within a few years. Next, Alan visits a potion shop and asks about MP recovery potions. The clerk laughs and says he doesn't sell anything that fancy. So Alan asks about healing herbs instead. That question hits a nerve. The clerk remembers selling one to a desperate man named Gerda years ago. The herb usually costs 5 gold coins, but Gerda only had 3 and begged for a discount to save his friend's life. Though worried he'd been scammed, the clerk helped him anyway, and to his credit, Gerda later came back to pay the rest. Realizing his father might not be alive without that kindness, Alan thanks the clerk sincerely and gives him a piece of bird meat as a gift. While walking through town, Alan passes a weapon shop and nearly chokes when he sees that a single weapon can cost up to 50 gold coins. But before he can think too hard about it, trouble finds him. Dagura suddenly shows up, trying to bully Alan into becoming his lackey. Alan isn't having it. He calmly puts his bag down, pulls out his wooden sword, and points it straight at Dagura. Alan could end the fight right there, but he wants it to be fair, so he tells Dagura to go grab a weapon. Confident he's got the advantage, Dagura runs off and comes back with his club. Big mistake. Thanks to his training with Krina, Alan absolutely wipes the floor with him. By spring, Dagura is regularly showing up at Alan's house asking for training, though he's still nowhere near Alan's level. Mash also starts training with Krina, but she goes much easier on him since he's still a beginner. That night, Roden and Gerda return with bad news. The Baron has raised the hunting quota from 10 boars to 15 and worse. He's ordered that commoners be allowed to join the hunt again. After last time, everyone knows that's a terrible idea. But a direct order from the Baron can't be ignored, so they're forced to agree and hope nothing goes wrong. That's when Alan speaks up. The real problem with commoners joining the hunt is that they're completely untrained. But Alan has spent countless hours playing Amos, and he's confident he can turn even the worst newbies into useful teammates. so he asks to be put in charge of training the commoners before the hunt begins. When the next hunt finally arrives, Roden takes Alan to meet the other hunters and announces that they'll be using one of Alan's new strategies. But he makes one thing clear: Alan is only here to watch today, not fight. Alan agrees, even though he's secretly disappointed because he was hoping to level up. Still, Roden doesn't change his mind, saying the main goal is to properly train the newbies so nothing goes wrong like last time. Speaking of last time, the boy who got Roden hurt comes over to apologize again and tells him not to risk his life protecting him. Roden calmly replies that all he has to do is focus on his role, and if everyone does their job right, nothing bad will happen. Soon, the hunting group heads into the forest, and for Alan, it's his first time outside the village walls. Naturally, he's super excited. Once they arrive, Gerda explains the plan. A few newbies act as bait to lure out a wild boar. When the boar charges in, Gerda's team stops it, and Roden's group rushes from the sides, stabbing it repeatedly. This method has worked for 10 years, but not so well with scared beginners. That's where Alan's idea comes in. Instead of putting the newbies in danger, they stay off to the side. When the boar is nearly defeated, Alan signals them to rush in and land a few hits. Since you only need to deal a little damage to earn experience in this world, the plan works perfectly. The boar falls and boom, the newbies feel power surge through their bodies. They've leveled up. Alan is thrilled, but also slightly annoyed because he didn't get any XP himself. The next day, Alan hears that one man has stopped hunting and started butchering meat instead since his wife is pregnant and he doesn't want to take risks. Alan immediately sees an opportunity. He brings the man to his house and shows him all the birds he's caught. The man is shocked a kid managed to capture so many. Alan admits he can't butcher them alone and offers a deal: 2 packs of meat for every bird prepared. The man happily agrees, though he asks if Alan is sure about paying that much. Alan smiles and says it's fine. After all, these birds aren't for food, he caught them to sell and earn the 50 gold coins needed to raise his family's status. Later, the hunting group heads out again, now with even more newbies. The goal is to eventually form 2 full teams and double the number of boars they catch, just like the Baron wants. Alan does wonder why the Baron is so obsessed with more boars when there's no food shortage. Before he can think too hard, another boar attacks. The same plan is used: control the boar, then let the newbies land finishing hits. They all level up again. But this time, Alan gets smart. He sends one of his summoned grasshoppers toward the boar, letting it get crushed. Since his summon technically took part in the fight, Alan gets the XP too and reaches level 3, though he feels a little bad for sacrificing it. 3 months later, Alan and the others are invited to the chief's mansion for a New Year celebration. On the way home, Krina is thrilled about all the candy they got. Back at home, their families throw their own party. Roden proudly praises Alan for his strategy, saying it made training newbies safe and effective, and next year's quota of 20 boars should be easy. Then Gerda notices a bottle behind Alan. Alan explains the chief personally gifted him some liquor. His condition? Beat him in a game. Desperate for a drink, they agree immediately. When they ask what game, Alan casually says, arm wrestling. Before starting, Alan adds one more rule: if he wins, they have to let him fight in future hunts. Roden doesn't like it, but he's sure he'll win anyway. First up is Gerda, who confidently believes there's no way a 7-year-old can beat him. Big mistake. Alan secretly stacks every strength buff he has through his summons. The match starts, and to everyone's shock, Alan slowly overpowers Gerda and slams his hand down. Gerda is speechless. Roden isn't shocked after everything Alan's done lately. He kind of expected it, but he's still confident the kid won't beat him too. After a short break, Roden locks arms with Alan. Just like before, Alan matches his strength at first. Alan ends up getting pushed back and losing the arm wrestling match. Keeping his promise, Alan hands over the liquor, but confidently declares that one day he'll be strong enough to beat his dad. Later that year, Alan finally levels up his summoning skill again and unlocks a whole set of E-rank summons. He's excited but knows he'll need to experiment to see what each one can do. Since E-rank creatures should give stronger buffs than the weaker ones, Alan is sure he can now beat Roden in arm wrestling. But before running off to challenge him, he notices something new in his grimoire, a feature called Storage. Curious, Alan taps it and sees a black square on the page. He tosses a rock inside, and never hears it hit the bottom. When he reaches in, a strange mental image shows him exactly where the rock is. He starts throwing in more things and realizes something insane as long as it fits through the book. The space can hold unlimited items. Basically, he just unlocked infinite inventory. Alan immediately knows this is way too overpowered to be random. Skills this broken usually exist for a reason, which means he's definitely going to need it soon. Still, Storage can wait. It's time to test his new summons. He tries summoning one, nothing happens. Turns out, E-rank monsters need E-rank magic stones to appear. Luckily, Alan already has some from killing rabbit monsters earlier. He grabs them, tries again, and still nothing. That's when he gets an idea. He throws the stones into the storage space and boom. Out comes a giant, beautiful butterfly, much bigger than expected. Before his bug-hating mom sees it, Alan hides it and heads to the fields, where he summons a terrifying saber-toothed tiger. He attempts to fuse the butterfly and tiger, but it only works after adding more magic stones, showing he'll need a lot of them going forward. At dinner, Roden tells him the village wiped out most rabbit monsters years ago because they were dangerous. Worried about running out of stones, Alan asks Palomas the next day and learns low-rank magic stones are basically useless and often scattered on the ground. So Alan starts scavenging and quickly collects enough to unlock all his new summons. He realizes his ability lets him cover every battle roll alone with endless beasts at his command. He's on his way to becoming unstoppable. Not long after, the village chief invites Roden, Gerda, and Alan over for dinner and drops some big news: the Baron himself is coming to visit next month to watch the boar hunt. Gerda is instantly annoyed since the Baron's constant quota increases have already made life hard enough. Roden doesn't mind the visit, but he does wonder why Alan was called in too. That's when the chief reveals the real reason he wants Alan to act as the Baron's personal guide. Alan isn't thrilled about babysitting a noble, but there's a problem. At his current pace, it'll take him nearly 10 years to earn commoner status by hunting birds alone. But if he impresses the Baron, he might get promoted much faster. So, with a deep sigh, he agrees. A month later, Baron Granville arrives with his daughter Cecil and Knight Captain Zenoff. During lunch, the Baron apologizes for last year's harsh meat quota, explaining it wasn't his idea. The king ordered it after being provoked by a sneaky viscount. The food soon arrives, and both the Baron and Cecil are blown away by how tasty it is. When the chief awkwardly can't name the dish, Alan steps in and explains it's freshly hunted bird meat he prepared himself. The Baron is impressed by Alan's manners and even mistakes him for the chief's son until Zenoff recognizes him as Roden's boy. When Cecil learns Alan is just a serf, she freaks out about a lowly peasant being in the guest hall. Her father quickly shuts that down, reminding her that serfs are valuable people, not dirt. She apologizes, but now she clearly has it out for Alan. The next morning, they head into the forest to watch the hunt from a safe tower Alan prepared. Cecil is amazed by the endless trees, having never seen a forest before. Soon, the warriors arrive wearing new armor made from last year's boar hides. Alan explains they turned the hides into tools and gear to make hunting safer and faster. Some unarmored men run into the forest to lure the boars out. It takes a while, but eventually a massive boar charges in. Using thick hide shields, they trap it, then stab from the sides while younger hunters help with long spears. The scene is so bloody that Cecil turns pale, and when Roden finishes the boar with a brutal strike, she faints on the spot. Before the cheering even ends, 2 more boars burst out of the forest. Zenoff prepares his knights to step in, but Alan calmly says they've got this. The team splits up and takes both boars down with ease. Alan realizes how far they've come before. Heavy taxes force them to trade away everything instead of improving their gear. Now, smart planning and better equipment make fights like this possible. Cecil wakes up just in time to see a fountain of blood from the last boar, and immediately passes out again. The Baron is shocked they killed 3 boars in one day. Alan casually tells him they already caught 7 before the visit, so only 10 more remain. The Baron is relieved the quota won't crush the village. Seeing the Baron in a good mood, Alan makes a request: permission to make more shields from boar hide. Granville sees no reason to say no, so he agrees to Alan's request and even praises him for doing such a great job as their guide. Just as they're about to leave, Cecil suddenly snaps at Alan, telling him not to get cocky just because her father complimented him. But right after that, she almost falls off her horse, completely destroying her tough girl moment. Not long later, Alan, Roden, and Gerda are invited to Granville's mansion. The Baron tells them he was so impressed by the hunt that he wants to reward them. Alan already knows something big is coming, and sure enough, Granville announces that Roden, Gerda, and their families are being promoted to commoner status. They're completely shocked, while Alan is beyond happy. Now he can keep his savings and finally travel freely, starting with a trip he dreams of to the White Dragon Mountains. Granville also adds that everyone who helped with hunts over the past 10 years will get the same promotion, and asks for a list of names. With how well things are going, he's confident the village will meet future quotas easily. Just as he's ready to leave, Granville remembers one last request from the king. The village is being used as a success story, so he wants to hear how the boar hunts began. Roden grows uncomfortable, so Gerda explains instead. 13 years ago, 100 poor settlers moved onto the land and worked non-stop to survive. But just as things improved, a giant boar destroyed all their winter food. With no weapons, they attacked it using farming tools and somehow won. The village survived because of it. Granville is impressed, but Gerda reveals the truth: Roden lost a close friend during that fight and has blamed himself ever since. Feeling bad for bringing up painful memories, Granville tells Roden he can make any request he wants. But Roden surprises everyone by asking for Alan to work at the Baron's estate. Inside, Alan panics. Working there means less freedom, not more. But Granville agrees and even promotes Alan straight to full servant instead of a simple helper. Cecil explodes in anger, until the butler calmly reminds her Alan is now a commoner, not a serf. Alan wants to refuse, but seeing how happy Roden is, he can't bring himself to say no. The next day, Alan prepares to leave. His family is proud but emotional, especially Karina. To cheer her up, Alan challenges her to one last spar. Everyone expects Karina to win, but Alan dumps all his stat boosts into speed and suddenly moves faster than ever. For the first time, he defeats her, holding his blade to her neck. Shocked, Karina can't believe she lost. Alan laughs and calls it a draw, promising a rematch someday. Soon it's time to go. The villagers say their goodbyes, and Dagora even gifts Alan a knife for the journey. His parents walk him to the village gate, reminding him this servant job is just the first step to a bigger future. The carriage arrives to take Alan, Cecil, and the Baron back to the city. The ride is painfully awkward. Cecil refuses to look at him, and Alan has no idea what to say. But one way or another, he's ready to face what comes next. So, Alan officially begins his new life as a servant at the Baron's estate. Since he's about the same age as Cecil, he's assigned the very important job of taking care of her, which basically means doing whatever she says, even when it makes zero sense. For example, she makes him lift her onto his shoulders so she can grab some fruit from a tree. She finally gets one, takes a bite, and immediately decides it tastes horrible. Naturally, this is Alan's fault for not magically knowing it would taste bad. Cecil isn't evil or anything, just the kind of person who can drain your energy before lunch. Of course, Alan can't complain. She then orders him to go to the market and buy her actually tasty fruit. Alan agrees, but before he leaves, something huge flies overhead, a giant ship in the sky. A flying ship. He just stands there staring like his brain has stopped working. He had no idea this world had magic airships. Cecil looks at him like he just discovered fire. "Is this your first time seeing one?" she asks. It absolutely is. So she shrugs, tells him not to forget the fruit, and leaves him to process his shock. The next morning, Alan wakes in his attic room, which, compared to his old place, is luxurious. His summoning grass gives off a refreshing scent, boosting his energy. Breakfast downstairs introduces him to the other servants, especially the head servant, Rickle. Rickle explains that Cecil's strictness is because Alan is a full servant, not a temporary hallboy, meaning he's technically part of the noble Granville family. Alan realizes why his father was thrilled about the position. Later, while helping serve breakfast, the Baron's wife praises Alan's manners despite his humble background, and the Baron is impressed by his capability, even though Alan isn't talentless, as they assume. Cecil immediately boasts about her wizard talent and her brother's swordsman talent. Her father immediately shuts that down. He warns her not to talk about talents in front of her younger brother, Thomas. Thomas doesn't have a talent, and it's a sensitive topic for him. Hearing Cecil brag makes him tear up. Cecil feels bad for about 3 seconds, and then somehow blames Alan for the situation. Later that afternoon, Alan finally gets some free time. He heads straight into town. His number one goal, the Adventurers Guild. He walks up to the receptionist and asks to register. She smiles and asks his age. "I'm 8, he says proudly. She politely crushes his dreams. The minimum age is 12. Alan is devastated. 4 more years of being Cecil's personal assistant. Tragic. Since he can't register, he studies the notice board instead. There are bounties posted for monsters of all ranks. While he's reading, an adventurer named Raven walks up and tells him this isn't a place for kids. Alan apologizes and prepares to leave, but first, he asks how the bounties are organized. Raven explains that monsters get stronger the farther you travel from the city. The strongest ones live near White Dragon Mountain. There's even an old bounty still posted for the White Dragon itself. Alan asks why no one has claimed it, considering how high the reward is. Raven laughs. The dragon is simply too strong. However, the area is rich in mithril, so people keep taking mining requests there, and the dragon bounty keeps increasing. That's all the information Alan needs. He thanks Raven and leaves. He may not be allowed to register as an adventurer yet, but no one said he can't fight monsters. It's his day off, after all. He runs to the city gate, but is stopped by a guard. Normally, you can't just stroll out of the city. However, since Alan is technically part of the Granville family, he shows their seal as identification. That clears things up immediately. The gates open. Alan enters the forest cautiously, stopping a few kilometers in where D-rank monsters roam. He summons 6 intelligent hawks to scout and tests his tiger summon, which can follow simple commands but isn't very smart. One hawk reports a group of goblins, but they spot Alan first and charge. He quickly summons 10 tigers to surround them and a butterfly to cast a sleep spell, which works about 80% of the time. Once the goblins grow drowsy, the tigers wipe them out. Goblins give less XP than boarwoods, but are faster to defeat, so Alan farms them all day, defeating around 80 and earning 16,000 XP, leveling up twice. He also learns dark magic stones can't create E-rank summons, despite being more valuable. At night, he sends the hawks to scout again, but they refuse to move. He realizes hawks can't see well in the dark, ruining his plan to use them to navigate home. With no night vision and no GPS birds, Alan stumbles through the forest and barely makes it back to the city. A month later, Alan visits a blacksmith and commissions 3 solid metal balls. He wants to improve his rock throwing skill, and metal ammo sounds way better than pebbles. After paying, he stores them inside his grimoire. Over the past month, he has gone hunting 4 times. Thanks to his efficient goblin farming, he has reached level 12. Finally, real progress. That night, when he returns to the Granville estate, Sebas corners him and says the Baron wants to see him. No pressure. Alan goes to the Baron's office. Instead of scolding him, the Baron praises him. Everyone in the mansion has good things to say about Alan. However, there's a small concern. The Baron has heard that Alan leaves early on his days off and comes back very late. He makes it clear Alan isn't in trouble. He's free to use his days off however he wants. The Baron just wants to know what he's doing. Alan decides to be honest. He explains that he's been hunting in the forest. As the son of Roden, a hunter, it feels natural to him. The Baron nods. Fair enough. Alan is allowed to continue hunting, but there's one condition. Sebas assumes Alan is only hunting harmless E-rank rabbits. He warns Alan not to sell any meat to local butchers. If people found out a servant of the Granville family was doing that, it could cause gossip. Instead, the estate offers to buy any meat he brings back for 1 silver coin per bundle. That's actually higher than the market rate. Alan is thrilled. Up until now, he's been throwing the meat away. Now he can level up and make money. That's called efficiency. 6 months later, Alan is on one of his weekly hunts. Today's goal, at least 100 goblins and a few horned rabbits. Suddenly, one of his hawks returns. He assumes it found monsters. Then all the other hawks come back too. And they're acting strange. That's not normal. Alan follows the noise and finds Raven and his party surrounded by goblins. Raven is already unconscious, and Rita is the only one still fighting. Alan steps in, throwing metal balls at the goblins. They hit harder than stones, but can't one-shot, and he only has 3. He avoids using his summoning powers to keep them secret, so he fights head-on. At level 12, D-rank goblins are no longer a challenge. He quickly defeats several, far faster than Rita, and clears the area. The party is safe, but Raven may not survive. Rita urges Melly to heal him, but she's out of mana, and Raven won't make it back to town. Alan quietly offers special healing grass created by one of his summons. He applies it, and Raven's wound fully heals. Raven wakes up, and the team gratefully promises to repay him for the rare herb. Alan just wants to stay low profile, but he does ask for one favor: 100 E-rank magic stones. Though they're nearly worthless, Raven agrees to gather them by next week. A few days later, Alan returns to assisting Cecil. While lifting her to grab jam for cookies to celebrate her brother Mihai's return, Alan is so shocked by the news that he loses balance. A little while later, the family is enjoying lunch together, and Granville is seriously impressed. The food tastes amazing. Cecil proudly explains that it was made using horned rabbits Alan hunted himself. Granville nods in approval. Of course Alan is skilled, he's Rodin's son after all. Talent runs in the blood. Then Granville casually mentions that Kren Village successfully met its yearly quota of 20 boars. Alan isn't surprised. He never doubted they could do it. But Thomas suddenly asks an important question. If the quota was met, why haven't we eaten any boar meat this year? Everyone pauses. Boar meat used to be the highlight of winter meals. But this year, nothing. Alan quickly guesses the reason. The king must have increased the quota, so all the meat was probably sent to the capital instead. Makes sense, politically. Not great for dinner though. Then Thomas, being Thomas, boldly requests, "Next time, can you hunt a white deer?" The entire family immediately scolds him. A white deer isn't some backyard rabbit. It's dangerous. Rare, definitely not a casual lunch order. But Alan? He agrees instantly. He's been bored lately anyway. A new challenge sounds fun. And if a white deer is around C rank, it should be easy. The next day, Alan heads into the snowy forest. First, he digs a pit trap. Then he runs off to track his target. When he finally spots the white deer, he summons 4 frogs as bait. Using their provoke skill, the frogs annoy the deer until it charges at them. Right before it hits Poof, Alan dismisses the frogs. He keeps repeating this trick, slowly guiding the furious deer exactly where he wants it, straight into the pit. And once it's trapped, game over. An hour later, chaos erupts at the mansion gates. A giant white deer has appeared out of nowhere. The staff prepares to attack, until a voice comes from underneath it. Alan rolls out from under the massive corpse. Yes, killing it was easy. No, carrying it home alone was not fun. He proudly announces he hunted it for Thomas. The whole family rushes out. Thomas is thrilled they're having deer meat for New Year's. Granville, however, is stunned. An 8-year-old defeating a C-rank monster alone. Now he's seriously questioning that talentless label. Reassessment is definitely happening soon. Not long after, Alan is called into a meeting with Sibis. Good news, he's being promoted to huntsman. His duties? Hunt food for the household and protect everyone during monster attacks. His pay? 100 silver coins a month, double his current salary. Sounds amazing, right? Except Alan quickly realizes something. That deer alone was worth more than 100 silver. Paying him a monthly salary is way cheaper than buying strong monsters from him directly. clever. Still, Alan doesn't mind. As long as he can hunt freely, he's happy. Then Sibis drops the bad news. He still has to serve Cecil, and he can only hunt once a week. Alan dies a little inside, but he keeps smiling. Complaining would be rude. Later, Alan accompanies Cecil to the port to welcome her brother Mihai from the Royal Academy. It's Alan's first time seeing an airship, but Cecil only cares about hugging her brother and scolding him for missing last summer. Alan offers to carry Mihai's luggage and is introduced as Cecil's servant. Mihai immediately notices Alan's talent, which quietly relieves him. Finally, someone perceptive and mature. Watching the siblings bond makes Alan think of his own family. After another successful hunt, Alan returns with top-tier ingredients, delighting the chefs. In the garden, he sees Mihai sparring with Zenov. Though only 14, Mihai shows impressive skill from his academy training, but Zenov still wins due to the strength gap. Afterward, Mihai asks Alan to spar. Granville approves. Zenov hands Alan a mithril sword. For the first time, Alan holds one. The duel begins. At first, Alan tries to hold back. He doesn't want to hurt Mihai. Then their swords clash, and Alan realizes something. Mihai is strong. Really strong. Years of structured academy training make a massive difference. Even if their raw strength is similar, Alan's swordsmanship is still beginner level. Experience wins. The duel ends. Mihai takes the victory. Everyone praises him again, though Cecil makes sure to compliment Alan for lasting as long as he did. When Thomas asks how Mihai got so strong, Mihai explains he had to clear a dungeon as a summer assignment last year. Suddenly, Cecil understands why he didn't come home. She feels bad for complaining earlier. Alan, meanwhile, is thinking about how incredible that academy training must be. Before leaving, Alan asks Mihai to spar again next summer. Mihai happily agrees and shakes his hand, asking him to take care of Cecil until then. Alan agrees. Internally, he's calculating the fastest way to quit this job without dishonoring his father. Viscount Carnell visits Granville and casually mocks the territory as a backwater. Though both men hide centuries of rivalry behind polite smiles, their lands sit on opposite sides of White Dragon Mountain, rich in mithril. A white dragon currently roosts on Granville's side, blocking their mines and crippling their economy, while Carnell prospers. The dragon switches sides roughly every 100 years, constantly flipping the balance of power. During dinner, Carnell praises what he thinks is rare boar meat prepared by Alan, but it's just horned rabbit, and he can't tell the difference. Carnell reveals he came because his eldest daughter was recently appraised and declared talentless. Instead of bragging, it's humiliation. He mockingly notes that 2 of Granville's 3 children have talents, while Granville fires back that Carnell also has a gifted son. The exchange is quiet political warfare. After Carnell leaves, Alan realizes noble life isn't glamorous, it's ruthless. On his day off, Alan seeks advice about hunting C-rank monsters. Having killed over 10,000 D-rank goblins, he wants stronger prey. He soon finds a C-rank orc and defeats it cleanly with summoned tigers. But a C-rank armored ant is a different story. Its shell shrugs off tiger claws. Using sleep butterflies, he flips it to target its softer underside, barely cracking the shell before it wakes. After desperate repeated strikes, he finally wins, collapsing in relief. Same rank, vastly different difficulty. The ant seems almost immune to physical attacks, making Alan wonder if magic would have been easier, especially with his high intelligence stat. So he joins Cecil's magic class. A magic orb should glow if he has talent. It doesn't. No matter how hard he focuses, nothing. Alan is officially magicless. That realization stings more than the ant fight. One evening, while the family is having dinner, Rickle suddenly rushes in with urgent news. A terrifying murder gulch has been spotted nearby and will reach the southern gate in less than 2 hours. The problem is that Zenov and his knights are away on a monster hunting mission and won't return for 2 days. Realizing the city has no defenders, Granville sends Rickle to the Adventurers Guild to post an emergency quest and gather fighters. Since the Murder Gulch is a B-rank monster, far too strong for local adventurers, Alan volunteers to stall it himself. However, he had already used most of his MP earlier while farming experience, so he needs time for his mana to recover. While heading through the city, Alan overhears a desperate man begging an adventurer to save his wife and daughter. Their carriage is stuck, and the Murder Gulch is currently chewing on it. Alan quickly throws an iron ball at the monster's eye, drawing its attention away from the family, but now the monster is fully focused on him. Alan immediately runs, planning to lure it away from the city toward the mountain. Once his MP recovers, he summons butterflies to boost his speed and attempts to put the monster to sleep with their magic. Unfortunately, the Murder Gulch resists the spell and swats the butterflies away. The chase continues for hours until Alan finally hides under some trees and briefly loses the monster. Exhausted and out of options, he realizes he isn't strong enough to defeat it and has already burned several magic stones just to survive. Still, he feels relieved knowing he at least led it far away from the city. But just as he prepares to leave, the Murder Gulch finds him again. For 3 straight days, Alan runs day and night while the monster relentlessly pursues him. Eventually, he manages to shake it off and stagger back to the city, completely exhausted. The guards recognize him as the hero who lured the monster away and catch him before he collapses. When Alan wakes up, he's back at the mansion being cared for by Cecil and Sebas. Cecil scolds him for making everyone worry, while Sebas praises his bravery and tells him Granville wants to see him once he recovers. When Alan meets Granville, he apologizes for not being strong enough to defeat the monster. Granville immediately dismisses that saying Alan's actions saved the city from massive casualties. As a reward, Granville gives Alan 10 gold coins, and the family he rescued gives him another 10 gold coins in gratitude. With the money, Alan finally buys a mithril sword. With his new weapon, he easily defeats an armored spider monster, slipping the blade through gaps in its armor to retrieve its magic stone. Later, Alan experiments with his summons by calling 3 hawks. 2 that were stored in the grimoire can correctly identify a fruit hidden inside a bag, showing they share knowledge while inside the grimoire. However, the 3rd hawk that stayed outside has no idea what's inside, proving the shared information only works for stored summons. In early March, Cecil's brother Mihai finally gives Alan the rematch he wanted. Despite Alan becoming stronger after hunting many C-rank monsters, Mihai's swordsmanship is still far superior, and Alan loses again. During lunch afterward, Mihai hears about Alan's encounter with the Murder Gulch. Alan downplays it, saying he mostly ran away, but Mihai is still amazed he survived against a B-rank monster. Just then, a knight suddenly bursts into the dining room again, making Alan nervous, remembering how chaotic the last time was. But this time, the knight brings good news. The white dragon that had been nesting on the nearby mountain has finally started migrating toward Cardinal's territory. This means the mithril mines on the mountain can finally be used again. Granville is overjoyed. Reopening those mines could bring a massive economic boom to the region. He immediately wants to send knights to inspect them. However, Zenov advises caution. First, they should confirm where the dragon plans to build its new nest before making any moves. Granville agrees. Then Mihai casually asks a question. If they're planning to reopen the mines, someone will need to clear all the monsters between the city and the mountain. And if that's the case, he'd be more than happy to help. After all, he still has some free time and he could use a little excitement. However, Zenov quickly shuts Mihai's idea down. He says it's far too risky. If the white dragon suddenly decides to come back during the hunt, Mihai could end up in serious trouble. Mihai understands the concern and calmly agrees to drop the idea. Alan, on the other hand, has a completely different problem. He realizes that once the knights clear all the monsters between the city and the mithril mines, his favorite XP farming spot will disappear, and Alan is not ready to lose his leveling ground just yet. So he decides to squeeze out as much experience as possible before that happens. At the first opportunity, Alan heads deep into the forest. His summoning skill recently reached level 5, and he's excited to test the new abilities he unlocked. One of those abilities is called Share. To try it out, Alan summons a hawk and activates the skill. Suddenly, something incredible happens. He can see through the hawk's eyes while still seeing through his own. Curious, he tells the hawk to fly higher into the sky. As the bird flies higher, Alan gets a stunning aerial view of the entire forest. Combined with the hawk's eagle eye ability, this makes scouting extremely effective. Curious about the limits of this skill, Alan summons 3 more hawks and links his senses with them. Now he can see through 4 different viewpoints at once, along with his own, like watching a giant split screen. Wanting to push the limit further, he summons a tiger and links to it as well. But when he tries adding another tiger, a sharp headache hits him, forcing him to cancel the skill. From this, Alan realizes 5 viewpoints is his current limit. Since his intelligence stat is around 1000, he estimates that each extra viewpoint requires roughly 200 intelligence. To test the theory, Alan summons an owl, which boosts his intelligence to over 1200, and tries again. This time, he successfully handles 6 viewpoints without pain. This leads Alan to a clever idea. If he can watch through his summons and give them orders remotely, they can hunt monsters while he stays safe. Essentially, he can farm XP without fighting himself. To test it, Alan sends his summons to attack a group of armored ants, and they quickly defeat them, proving the strategy works. Before leaving, Alan gives them a strict rule: never attack human adventurers, even if they're attacked first. Then another idea strikes him. Using a bird, Alan flies all the way to Karina village and watches from the sky. He sees everyone doing well Karina training, Din working in the fields, and his mother braiding his little sister's hair. Relieved to see his family safe, Alan quietly asks the bird to drop a gold coin for them before flying away. 6 months pass, and progress at the Mythel mines is slower than expected. Xenoff reports to Granville that the mines were abandoned for so long that they've been completely overrun by monsters. The nearby villages that once refined the ore have also turned into monster nests. Because of this, Xenoff estimates it will take at least 3 years to fully reclaim everything. Granville is shocked and pushes him to speed things up. Alan, who overhears the conversation, finds Granville's urgency suspicious. Granville then asks about Carnell, and Xenoff explains that Carnell tried to continue mining even after the dragon returned to the area. The result was disastrous. The dragon spotted the miners and burned the entire crew to ash, making the operation impossible for now. Granville warns Xenoff to stay alert in case Carnell tries something reckless again. Alan doesn't care much about the political drama. For the past 6 months, he has been grinding XP with his monsters non-stop. His goal is to become an adventurer when he turns 12, though that's still 2 years away, so he keeps farming monsters before the knights clear them out first. One day he finds a goblin-infested village. Normally he leaves goblin camps alive so they can respawn for easy XP, but after remembering how dangerous goblins are, he decides to wipe them out completely. Alan summons his bears to block every exit and traps the goblins inside. Chaos breaks out as the bears slaughter them. When the Goblin King appears, what should be a boss battle ends quickly because Alan's team is far overleveled. Within minutes every goblin is dead, and Alan earns nearly 50,000 XP, deciding to destroy every goblin camp in the forest. Later, Mai graduates from the academy and returns home. Instead of greeting everyone, he immediately challenges Alan to a no-holds-barred duel. Alan boosts his stats into speed and strength and rushes him, surprising Mai with how much he has improved. However, Mai still has superior skill and experience, and after a tough exchange, he disarms Alan and wins again. When Alan tries to congratulate him, Mai quietly walks past and speaks to Granville instead. Granville praises him as the pride of the family, but Mai then gathers Cecil and Thomas and reveals troubling news. As a noble, he must now fulfill a mysterious duty. He isn't allowed to explain it, only that he will return in 3 years. Cecil is heartbroken since she just got him back. Alan doesn't fully understand, but from everyone's reaction it sounds like something dangerous that noble children are forced to do. The next day, before leaving, Mai privately asks Alan to look after Cecil while he's gone. Alan agrees, and Mai departs. Life returns to normal. A year later, Alan has nearly wiped out every goblin camp and begins targeting orc camps instead. Orcs are stronger, but his summons handle them easily until a spell suddenly flies toward him. Alan orders his knight summons to block it and realizes something strange. Orcs aren't supposed to use magic. He spots 3 orc mages with scepters, whose fireballs deal serious damage. Acting quickly, Alan throws a steel ball with full force, instantly blowing one mage's head apart. The other 2 hide behind rocks, proving they're smarter than expected. One of them runs to warn the Orc King, while the rest of the orc army charges at Alan. Luckily, Alan has plenty of magic stones from his goblin hunts, enough to summon up to 20,000 bears if needed, so he's confident he can win. But then the Orc King appears. This B-rank monster is far stronger than anything Alan has faced. When Alan sends 2 bears to attack, the Orc King cuts them down instantly with a single strike. Alan summons more bears to overwhelm it, but the Orc King keeps slaughtering them before they can even attack, proving this fight is on a completely different level. Meanwhile, the orc mages continue launching fireballs. One powerful blast destroys Alan's night summons and sends him flying backward, costing him a huge chunk of HP. He quickly drinks a healing potion and tries to think of a solution. But no matter how much he thinks about it, none of his summons can defeat the Orc King. For the first time, Alan is completely out of options. Just as he starts considering running away, Xenoph suddenly appears beside him. He heard the noise and came to investigate. Alan quickly despawns his summons so Xenoph won't see them, though that probably makes things even more suspicious. Still, Xenoph doesn't question it. Instead, he calmly says he'll handle the Orc King himself and orders Vice Captain Lebron to deal with the Orc mages. The Orc King swings at Xenoph with enormous force, but Xenoph effortlessly parries the attack like it's nothing. Alan is stunned watching him fight. According to Lebron, this is barely a warm-up for Xenoph, who is known as an absolute powerhouse. Lebron then charges forward and unleashes a powerful piercing attack that leaves one of the mages looking like Toji after meeting the Honored One. He quickly eliminates the remaining mages and the rest of the orc soldiers. Meanwhile, Xenoph finishes the Orc King in style, slicing it clean in half within seconds. Later that night at camp, Xenoph casually mentions that ever since Alan became a servant at the Granville estate, mysterious monster corpses have been appearing all over the forest. It wasn't hard to guess who was responsible. Looking at Alan's abilities, Xenoph concludes that Alan clearly isn't talentless after all. Alan realizes his secret is basically exposed, especially when Xenoph directly asks if controlling those monsters is his special ability. There's no point denying it now, but Alan still avoids explaining the full truth. Sometime later, back at the mansion, a group of royal messengers arrives. Everyone gathers to see what news they've brought. But to Granville's horror, the messengers hand him Mai's diary and calmly announce that his son is dead. Granville can't believe it. It has only been 6 months since Mai left. The only explanation he can think of is that his son was sent out as cannon fodder because their family is a low-ranking noble house. The messengers don't respond. They simply leave, saying they have more tragic news to deliver to other families. The entire mansion falls into mourning. Everyone loved Mai, and the thought that a 15-year-old was forced into such a cruel fate is devastating. But this is the harsh tradition of the kingdom. Every so often, noble families must offer one of their gifted children for service, and many of them never return. Cecil can't accept this reality. While no one is watching, she quietly climbs out of her window and runs away. Soon the entire mansion is in chaos searching for her. And now Alan must find Cecil before something terrible happens. Cecil finally makes it out into the city, but she's been running for so long that her legs basically quit on her. Exhausted, she drops to the ground and pulls out the ribbon Mihai gave her, still refusing to accept that her brother is gone. Of course, she's not alone for long. One of Alan's owls spots her, and soon enough, Alan shows up. Cecil immediately assumes he's there to drag her back home, but surprisingly, he just sits beside her and says he'll wait until she feels better. No pressure, no lectures. At first, Cecil snaps at him, telling him to leave her alone. But then her stomach betrays her with the loudest growl ever. Alan casually pulls out food like a walking convenience store, and honestly, Cecil is too hungry and heartbroken to question it. She starts eating, and then the tears hit. As she remembers Mihai's final letter, it gets heavy. He knew he might die. He was scared, really scared, but he still chose to go, not because he had to, but because he wanted to face his own weakness. And now Cecil realizes, one day, she might have to face that same fate. Seeing how shaken she is, Alan suddenly drops a wild idea. Let's just run away. No duties, no academy, just freedom. Cecil brushes it off at first. She still has responsibilities, after all. But Alan hits her with a simple truth. The academy is just a school. She can choose not to go. And that's when it clicks she does have a choice. Just like Mihai did. And Mihai didn't choose duty out of obligation. He chose it for himself. That's why he had no regrets. That realization changes everything. Cecil finally stands up well, emotionally at least, and says she's ready to go home. Physically though? Yeah, not happening. Her legs are done. So she tells Alan to carry her. He's mildly annoyed, but still does it anyway. On the way back, she thanks him. He shrugs it off like it's nothing. When they return, her parents rush over in full panic mode. Her father even says he can pull some strings, maybe bribe the royal family to get her out of her noble duty entirely. But Cecil surprises everyone. She looks them straight in the eye and says she won't run away. When the time comes, she'll face her duty by choice. Her parents are shocked, but they respect it. Fast forward 6 months, and things are mostly back to normal. Alan's out hunting again, clearing monsters like it's just another Tuesday. Thanks to him, the Mithril mines are finally back in business. But there's still tension because Carnell might not take this loss quietly. Now that the forest is mostly safe, Alan decides to aim higher literally and heads up the mountain. There, he finds a nightmare, an ant colony with thousands of monsters and a B-rank queen. Charging in would be suicide, so Alan plays it smart. He camps the entrance, picks off ants one by one, and then sends his owl scouts inside to map the entire tunnel system like a living GPS. After hours of searching, right when he's about to give up, jackpot, his owls find the queen. Alan rolls up with his summoned army and starts the boss fight. The soldier ants, easy. The queen, not so much. She one-shots his bears, but Alan just keeps summoning more like he's spamming respawns. Slowly but surely, the damage stacks up, and the queen finally goes down. Victory. Too bad it's already night, so Alan camps in the cave. But before sleeping, he notices something shiny mithril. The next day, he returns home carrying proof of his insane achievement. At first, no one believes him. Taking down a whole colony and a queen sounds ridiculous. But when he shows the mithril, everyone realizes he actually went into the White Mountains. Now they're impressed. Granville rewards him with 30% mining rights to the new vein, basically meaning future Alan is going to be rich without even trying. Time passes, Alan turns 12, and life is looking pretty good, until trouble comes knocking again. A royal messenger arrives with Carnell. And yeah, it's bad. They bring a contract forcing Granville to share the mithril profits for the next 100 years. Basically, give us half your money or else. Granville refuses to sign without consulting the king, which makes the messenger furious. You'd think that's the end of it. It's not. Just days later, chaos erupts. Mercenaries break into the mansion to kidnap Cecil. Alan rushes in and attacks, but it's not a fair fight. One of the kidnappers uses sleeping gas, and Alan drops instantly. When he wakes up, he's tied up right next to Cecil. Not ideal, but also kind of convenient. The kidnappers don't know about his summoning powers, so Alan quietly summons birds to scout the area. That's when he discovers the truth. They're on a luxury magic airship. And the masterminds, Carnell and the royal messenger, casually drinking and laughing. Even worse, they're planning to threaten Granville by cutting off Cecil's hand if he refuses to cooperate. Yeah, Alan is done being calm. Back in the room, Cecil wakes up and starts panicking. The kidnappers get annoyed and are about to hit her. Big mistake. Alan finally makes his move. He summons a butterfly, puts one kidnapper to sleep, breaks free from his ropes, and gets ready to take them all down. And that's where the episode ends, right when things are about to go crazy.